It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Harley Wallen. Hello, Harley. How are you? Thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to it.
So, right off the bat, I see that you're originally from Sweden. Is that correct?
Yeah. I was born and raised in Sweden, went to school in Sweden, and my mom always tells me that from me being a little kid, I was 5 years old and said I was going to be an actor and moved to America, and I guess I ended up fulfilling that part of the dream. So here I am now. I'm in Michigan actually, but being a filmmaker and an actor, I'm kind of everywhere. So I spend a lot of time obviously in LA, but heading to Texas next week for a big film festival.
Did you start out in Sweden being an actor there, or did you come to America first and then decide to start acting? Yeah,
so I was a professional fighter and a break dancer, and I ended up through the dance landing on a show. It's a syndicated TV show that was like a cabaret style show where we had a guest every week, and they were usually a musical guest. So they brought us in. What they ended up doing was they would always come to us dancers and say, hey, we have a scene today where somebody needs to buy suntan lotion from the store, and is anybody interested in doing that? And I remember being all excited, saying, yeah, I'll do it. And then you start hanging out with the actors, and then you start realizing, what a thing acting is, and you start hearing about the methods and getting into character. And it was so fascinating that I went and got myself an acting coach and started working on it. And all of a sudden it was what I wanted to do, and a big part of why I ended up moving here. Okay. So you were an adult once you moved to the United States? Yeah. How did you do that? I'm curious about, I don't mean how you moved, but I mean how does one come and then say, okay, I'm going to become an actor? Did you have connections in the United States, or did you have some kind of a plan? I think I was willing to at least give it a go. When I found out that most people that move country to country end up moving back within a year, I felt like, worst case scenario, at least I can say I gave it a shot. But at the time, I already had an agency in Chicago and one in Toronto because I had started, working on the acting, and I was really, I know the audience is the biggest if you can get in with a big, American Hollywood movement, so to speak. So that was always what I wanted, but. That was it. I had those agencies, and they gave me opportunities when I came that kind of got the career started. Okay. What was your first paid gig in the United States? My first paid gig, my first really good paying gig was a Hockey Night in Canada commercial in Toronto, and that was it was 90 something, late 90s or mid to late 90s, and I kind of got bit with that one because I was supposed to just be an extra. It was one of my first gigs, and then they ended up upgrading me, and I got featured, and I don't know why, but it was really motivating that I felt like I could actually do this. So that was my first one that I really remember, because I went in about to make, a few $100 and walked out of there with a couple of grand, and I'm like, yay, let's do this again. Well, a couple of grand for an acting gig is definitely good money, especially if that was just a commercial. Yeah, but that's the thing that people don't get. This, like, it's not cheap to be an actor either, because you got to keep up on looks and styles and things, and you have to keep yourself neat enough that you can look like the roles you're auditioning for. You have to identify and be honest enough with yourself of what you can play, and then you have to go audition to audition. It's a little bit easier now that you can do remote auditions via video, so you don't have to go everywhere. The problem with remote auditions is that you can't be redirected. So if you're off, if you make a misjudgment on the character, you can be completely out, where in the past when it was in person, they could say, well, I was thinking it more like this, or in this direction, or no, he's not afraid, he's angry. These are things that you can just do a quick adjustment to in person, but you can't really do in video. But it saves us a little bit of money, at least, that we're at home doing it now rather than flying around. Because I remember auditioning, at Tribeca, and then you'd be in Toronto, and then you'd go to Detroit, and then I'd be in Chicago, and then I'd be in Miami, and it's impossible to keep that up.
Okay, so for the video remote auditions, that's pretty much like a screen test, except you're not doing it live. See, I thought they were done like by Zoom or something, where you had interaction, but it's just you film yourself doing what you think they're going to want, and you send it on, right? You got one shot.
Yeah, correct.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, you can, and some of them will let you send in 2 reads, which I really enjoy. So that way I can take one that's a little bit of a safer choice, where I don't make a super strong choice in either direction, and then I can make one where I make a very specific choice, and see if they want a character that sticks out, or if they want a character that blends in. It depends on a whole lot with the filmmaker, the director, especially with what they're looking for the scene and whatnot. But right now you'd start dipping into the Zoom type of meeting on your callback. Some will fly in, but a lot of the callbacks are still via Zoom and whatnot. So it's an interesting thing. It's both good and bad, I believe, with the availability we have now.
Oh, I see. So if you make it through the first one, then you might get a Zoom call with the director.
Yes, correct.
Okay, I get it.
Yes.
All right. I'm looking over your IMDb, and there's just a ton of movies on here. And I'm embarrassed to say that I can't find one that I've seen. But I am going to shortlist a couple of them because they look really intriguing. Betrayed is one. Enigma's another one. Those are definitely kind of movies that type of movies that I like. So I'm definitely going to watch those. Were you... Oh, I see writing credits and director stuff.
Yeah, I did a little bit of everything on quite a few films at this point. Been directing for a while, so I got about a dozen or so features under my belt, and then a bunch of short films. Betrayed would be definitely a good one to check out. It's done very well. We even screened at Berlinale last year as a classic. We got lucky enough to be distributed by Sony originally, and that carries so much weight for a smaller independent film that we ended up getting a lot of distribution on it. So that film has been dubbed into 7 languages. It's on 5 different airlines and in 95 countries. And we just literally at Berlinale this year sold another 15-year extension to Germany for licensing. So that film is probably our most popular one, although the last 3 of our horror thrillers that we've released are probably going to catch up and take the title in about 6 months to a year.
Okay. I see John Savage's name in the stars on that one.
Yeah. He was fantastic, and then has become a really good friend of mine.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I liked... I loved him in The Deer Hunter, and... he was in Hair, I think. He was really good in that.
Hair. Yeah. The Thin Blue Line. Yeah, he's had quite. People don't give him the credit. I think he should have been nominated for Deer Hunter along with Christopher Walken and De Niro. I think he should have been. I think he should have been nominated too. But back then they didn't do a lot of nominating for the same film for the same supporting actor. They would only usually pick one. But I think, and I definitely everybody got nominated on Hair other than him. I feel. And I definitely think he was worthy of a nomination for that as well. I think he was incredible to work with, and he's such a genuine, giving, good guy. Every time I'm in LA, I feel like we go do something. We head to CAA and do a special screening, but he's the kind of guy that you just want to hang out with.
That's very cool. So are you more on the writing, directing side now than acting, or are you still doing acting as well, or all of the above?
Yeah, all of the above. I've become a little bit more sparing with my writing. I used to write a lot more, and I probably got busier, so that's a part of it. But primarily at this point, acting and directing are the two things that I get hired for. I think directing from the last few horror movies and from our TV series, Tale of Tales, I think those have really put me in demand when it comes to directing. So that it's been a lot more fun to not just do my own films, but actually get hired to take on the vision of other people and kind of make a film from another perspective than my own, and then take on the vision from a core team where a lot of the other films that I've made, I've birthed the script and wrote the original treatment and wrote the script and then produced it, and so by the time it comes to it, it's all kind of my baby. It's a lot of fun actually with collaborations with other writers, and I'm enjoying that a lot.
The film that was sent to us was called Beneath Us All. Is that your latest?
Yeah, that's the last release we had in September. It's a Stephen King kind of vibe, vampire film, but it's an atmospheric horror thriller that has a little bit more depth in the story. I don't know if you and your listeners know of a film called Let the Right One In, where the vampire story is just an exacerbation of what already exists. We wanted to tell a story similar to that. Stephen King does such a fantastic job in his storytelling of the layer cakes that we went after that. So we went after this foster child who essentially is not in a good place with her foster parents, and then she finds this man essentially in the woods in a crypt and unearths him, and he's barely strong enough to function at first, and she brings him and nurses him back to health, only to find out that he's not a regular human. And it's a really interesting spin on just moral dilemmas and what we think of people. So I really enjoy it. Beyond the vampire story, there's depth and drama and story in the subplot.
Okay. I'm looking at the cover. That is one creepy-looking vampire.
Yes. Yeah, he played by Jan Birch, who played the what's his name, the Stairmaster, I think they called him, in The People Under the Stairs.
Oh,
and
okay.
He played our vampire. He was so good. And he's a fellow Swede, so he works with me on a lot of my films. He came in the very first time on Betrayed and played, I believe, a coroner or a forensic coroner or something like that. And he was so good, and we just hit it off right away that he's a part of most of the things I do now since I moved here. Even though he's in L.A., we've gotten really close as well.
So I see director credit for this one, and oh, I see. You're also Detective Donovan Booker.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're in
it
this
was
one
a
as
fun
well.
role to play, for sure.
Oh, I see Jan on here. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he plays Frey the vampire, who is actually, we wanted to reboot vampires because I think a lot of people were frustrated after, we had some glittery romantic vampires for a while, and I think people wanted vampires scary again. So we wanted to reboot them. So in this case, I tapped into my heritage, and we rebooted essentially the original vampire to be a Viking. And then the Vikings, because they couldn't kill him, they essentially put him in a crypt, take him across the Atlantic, bury him in Maine, and then they just head back. And eventually that kid unearths him, and that's kind of where we pick up the story. But we have the first 5 or so minutes of the film with that really cool opening with the whole Viking and all the things of the origin to get the story to where we play it.
I see it's 2023, so the film's been released, yeah?
Yep, it released September last year. And has been doing incredibly well. We actually it's the first film of mine that became a bestseller on Apple TV in about 2 weeks, which is wild.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Very, very cool. Yeah, it's been doing incredibly well. It's been one of the most popular horror movies, both on Freevee and on Tubi, since I believe either early December or mid-December, maybe when it went on to those advertisement outlets, and it's been super popular, which we're very happy about.
Glad to hear it. Let me ask you one more thing, and then we got to kind of wind this down. On the heels of AI taking over everything, what kind of advice do you give for aspiring actors? I mean, should they even try? Or is it going to be, a completely AI-generated industry in 20 years?
Well, I don't think that it's ever. I don't believe in absolutes, so I don't think that it'll go away. I think you're always going to have local theaters and acting there, and you're going to have. There's going to be purists. There are people that still shoot on film, even though you can do this electronically now, and it's far cheaper and much more simple to deal with. But that's what they want. There are people filming in black and white still. Great friend of mine, Sean Whalen, just shot a film named Crust that's going to be out in theaters this summer in black and white. So I don't think that this ends in any way, shape, or form. But I think what's going to have to happen is I think we have to take back art, because I don't know what has happened with it. It's become too many middlemen and too much money going in and out of it. And I think we become purer when we do it for the right reasons. But I think that goes for everything. I think if you become a nurse because there's a shortage of nurses and they pay well, then you may not be a good nurse at all. So maybe you should do what you feel pulled to and what you're kind of meant for, rather than worrying too much. I understand we all have bills to pay, but if you said right now that you are never going to be rich or wealthy, and you're going to have to stay in the same house you have now, and you're going to drive 10-year-old cars for the rest of your life, but you get to do what you love, that's an easy decision for me. I'm not in this to be a millionaire. I'm not in this to become a billionaire. I am in this because I love expressing myself through art forms and telling stories, and to have the blessing of taking up an hour and a half of someone's time and give them a break from bills and stress and arguments and fights and problems in their lives. To me, it's I'm already so fortunate to even get to do this, that if we do this for the wrong reasons, I don't think we'll be there. But yeah, we'll beat AI, and we'll keep this thing going. It'll shrink. There will be a lot more characters that are AI. I believe background is going to get hit the worst and the fastest, because it's a lot easier to just duplicate them in. So I can definitely see this impacting, but you can't take this away. It's like if you look at the people that thought that there wouldn't be any fighting because we invented robot wars. I remember what FX or whatever started that like 25, 30 years ago. And somehow while this is happening, mixed martial arts has become one of the 4 or 5 most popular sports in the world. So I don't think that I don't think that things are going to go away because of AI, but I do think we're going to have to figure out how to work alongside of it. And I do think that, if you're a mediocre writer, you can use AI to take your script to another level. If you are a decent actor, you can work on AI and probably become a better actor. You can probably, there's a lot of things we can do to become better at what we do because of AI. So I think that instead of fighting it, the best thing we can do is probably embrace the portions of it that makes us better. The duplication stuff I'm not a big fan of. But, when I go to the store, half of the time there's not a human to check me out either. I have to do that work myself. So I think not embracing it is going to hurt us ourselves more than it's going to hurt anybody else.
Good advice. Well, on that, we're going to wind this down. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Last question. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Yeah, it's paintedcreekproductions.com. And a lot of stuff is on there, anything from shirts to projects and what we're working on. And, of course, on social media, feel free to follow me. Harley Wallen, pretty easy to find. I run all my own stuff. So if I'm interacting with you, it's me. It's not somebody hired somewhere. And I am fairly active, especially on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, great. Well, Harley, thank you for coming on the show. It was nice talking to you. Nice meeting you. And best of luck with everything you're doing.
You too. Much appreciated.